All right, everyone. Joe Biden has been in politics for half of forever because he's fucking old as hell. And he wants you to know this. So he was talking the other day about how he worked with people, segregationists, literally 40 years ago when he was, I don't know, in Congress or a governor or whatever he was at the time. And like Talmadge and some of these other people. And he's like, well, we managed to get some things accomplished even though we disagreed on pretty much everything. Now, the meaning of what he's saying is, hey, even if you think someone's disgraceful, the mechanisms of government still have to be able to function. You can't simply obstruct everything, not negotiate at all, lock everything down, because this hurts people. It hurts the country. Only he didn't use those particular words because he's Joe Biden. This isn't a gaffe. This is an example of the far left, which is expansive within the party, dogpiling any sense of civility, any sense of sanity within the Democratic Party. And this is why they will probably lose in 2020. What happened is that a bunch of his opponents, the Cory Bookers, the Bernie Sanders, the Elizabeth Wards, they dogpiled him and said, oh my God, this is atrocious. How can he talk about how he's happy he worked with segregationists? The point is almost made by their response. This is Joe Biden's strength in this argument. And he should point this out. He should say, look, this is what I'm talking about. You've become so morally outraged about a person's status that even though they are in Congress, like it or not, or a governor or whatever they happen to be, you're not even willing to work with them on things that have nothing to do with the segregation issue, or Orange Man bad, or anything else. When Joe Biden is the sane man in the room has big fucking problems. The fact that Joe Biden and a 38-year-old named Pete Buttigieg, are basically the only people making kind of any sense within the Democratic field is astonishing to me. There should be a few more moderates. There should be a few. I guess they didn't want to get in and have to compete with Biden. Meanwhile, the far left is like, well, the strongest dude in the race is Bernie Sanders. He could drop dead any day. He's 78 years old. And then next runner-up is Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren lies about her ethnicity all the time for half of her life. That's going to be a problem. She probably can't even win the primaries simply because of that. And then you got Kamala Harris. Well, you know, the youth vote is not going to like it when they hear about how she was a tough-on-crime 2000s liberal. They're probably not going to like that very much. You know, prosecuting people for fucking truancy and simple possession and doing the hard-on-drugs sort of spiel. So Joe Biden comes out and he's saying, you know, I don't like Joe Biden. I would never vote for Joe Biden, but, you know, what he's saying isn't wrong. The problem in the Democratic Party is related to obstruction. People have become morally self-righteous. There was a post today on Facebook by Being Liberal. Now, I don't post on Facebook and I rarely use it. Again, I rarely go on there. I basically check the messages. I might scroll through for a couple of minutes. But Being Liberal made a post and they're all messed up. And it was like some weird thing about the mark of the beast. It had a quote from Revelation and then a picture of a MAGA hat. I'm thinking to myself, my goodness, how the Democrats have lost it. My goodness, how the left has lost it. Here you've got literal, morally religious iconography and shit being associated with the issue of Trump. And it doesn't make any sense. Like 10 years ago, that post would have been completely laughed at by the liberals themselves as hyper-religious and crazy. And it is hyper-religious and crazy. You know, they embrace the Pope anytime he talks about building bridges instead of walls. Except around the Vatican. Walls are okay there. But the liberals have gone nuts. Joe Biden, you know, starting to make sense to people. This should be a wake-up call to the Democratic Party. You need to get your affairs in order. Because you're going to lose 2020 if you keep going in this direction. With all of these other people beating up on Biden. I mean, they're obviously going to attack him at every possible opportunity. But literally nobody's saying the obvious, which is, well, I mean, he's not wrong. We do have to be able to work with people. The morally outraged, social justice, pink-haired freak left isn't willing to work with anyone that they disagree with because they've turned it into a form of quasi-religious moralism. Their movement, they have a sort of communistic-style fervor associated with their beliefs. So they believe that history began like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Everything before that is the Dark Ages. All ideals other than theirs are intrinsically evil and shouldn't even be given room to speak. So basically we should all be like ants. There shouldn't even be disagreement. Once you get to the point where you're using religious moralism sort of iconography, because of the zeal with which you'll make your arguments and hold to your ideals, you no longer are capable of even admitting any debate. you inevitably become an authoritarian. And such movements inevitably collapse. That's the good part. So Biden, I think Biden still becomes the nominee, even if he does make mistakes all the time. This isn't a gaffe, though. This will be seen as a gaffe by people on the left, but it's not going to be seen as problematic by people in the center left, by business Democrats. That, you know, and keep in mind, and here's where the Democrats are total failures. Like I said in my first video, if you look at polling, Biden has a huge lack of support in the Rust Belt. Business Democrat central. Despite that, he's still probably going to be the nominee and is the only one there that probably can even wine and dine the business Democrats. Bernie Sanders can't do that. Not with his, hey, 70% tax policies. Warren, she's already pissed everyone off. Kamala Harris, there's nothing stand out about her and her platform that would help get business Democrats back aboard. I think that they would all lose in the Rust Belt, giving Trump the election. It'd be a repeat of 2016. Yeah, he could expand the map. If the people of Minnesota get pissed off enough at the crazy people that are being nominated by the Democrats there, yeah, he could expand the map. He could win Minnesota. He could potentially regain Virginia or New Hampshire. I think he'll retain Florida. Florida is probably the biggest make or break for Trump. The Rust Belt, it looks like it'll be off the table for the Dems. That's about all. Peace out.